Hello and welcome to Louis Philippe in Pursuit of Excellence. My guest today is really the financial wizard of India. His love for sports is known all over the world as well. More importantly, he's also a Padma Bhushan awardee by the Government of India. My friend Deepak Parekh. Deepak, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. My first question to you has to be about Wimbledon. I mean, I always see you there, the finals of Wimbledon, looking very relaxed, and you enjoy the tennis.
Well, I got interested in tennis seeing the Amritraj brothers. And that's how that many years I've been. But in those days, we couldn't afford a ticket. We were not invited to Wimbledon. Then as years progressed, we got invitations in marquees and by different bankers and different institutions. And so I get invited, and that's why I go there. It's a good time of the year to be in London.
Yes.
And seeing the semi-finals is the best date you can go to Wimbledon, because you see two men semi-finals, and it goes on for 8 hours, 9 hours, but it is really absorbing. You
went to education, went through school and college, but then you ended up doing a chartered accountancy in the UK. And is it a something that you always wanted to do? You wanted to be in the banking industry?
Well, I was very weak in physics and chemistry, so I couldn't be an engineer by any chance. And I didn't like medicine. So the only option was a commerce degree and pursue something further. And the reason for going to London is that, you won't believe this, but it is true, the pass percentages in London is about 30 to 40% in the final CA exams, while in India it is 3 to 4%. So it was easier to pass in England than to pass a CA in India.
That's an amazing statistic.
It is. And you know, the logic or the rationale which people talk about, now it's increased to 10-15%, but it's still not very high.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, there's no official reason. The unofficial reason is the country doesn't want so many chartered accountants. The existing chartered accountants are keeping a curb of how many new people come into the profession. And that's what one hears. I don't believe it, but I guess it's a tough exam. So
your years of growing up or doing chartered accountant in the UK, how would you term that experience? Obviously, it's overseas. It's
the first time I stayed away from home. No parents, no support at home, staying in digs, managing your food, managing your clothes. It gave you independence. The more, it gives you exposure. You know, from here we are, Indians are very protected, joint family system, family support and all that. So when you go out on the first day, you're left in wild west kind of thing. And, you know, you have to fend for yourself for everything. And so that it gives you independence, it gives you confidence of how to face the world. And, you know, it was probably the best experience. I was very sheltered. I was shy. I was low-key. It opened me up. It broadened my vision. And it increased my ambition.
When you came back from the UK and your first position at Ernst & Young, when you started there, was that the sort of line of thinking that you had in moving forward?
No, I came back and joined Grindlays Bank. I was with Ernst & Young in New York, and I did my articles with them in London. And I spent a year in New York in Ernst & Young. But I came back, I wanted to do banking. I wanted to do investment banking. It was also known as merchant banking. So I sort of, I went to National Grindlays, were one of the first banks that had started investment banking. And I went there and they interviewed me and I got that job. That's how I started my banking career, financial career.
And that was where you wanted to be?
That's where I wanted to be.
What was your direction? What was your path when you came back? Were you looking at...
See, I was looking at the financial sector and particularly investment banking. And after Grindlays, Chase Manhattan had offered me a job to run their local office. I was very happy and very comfortable at Chase Manhattan. That was the time when the first oil boom. And being an American bank, Americans were reluctant to go to the Middle East in those days. And being an Indian, I was offered a job in Saudi Arabia with Chase.
And the start of you joining HDFC, obviously you were well prepared to join HDFC at the time, and of course you had been in the financial sector for a while. You did all of the education perhaps overseas and Asia that you probably needed. What made you join HDFC at the time?
I sort of at that time, my uncle who was toying with the idea of setting up a housing finance company called me one day and said, "Why are you running around the world? Why don't you sort of settle down? And or why don't you look at this new initiative and come and join this as a startup?" And I then decided that I want to stay here anyway. I was not really enamored by Saudi Arabia, to be honest. Hearing and seeing what was happening there and how one had to live. And so I decided to chuck that up and take this plunge here.
What drove you to do that? I mean, what drove you to this incredible chance that you were taking?
No, it was a risk, but I had since I was in England for 4 years and the US for a little over a year, every street corner had a building society. And even in US, you had SNLs and you see these TV ads, home finance. Home finance was not done here. And even in my own case, my father worked for 40 years. And with his retirement benefits, we could afford a house, small house, in Bombay, in South Bombay. But he had to go back to work again the next day, somewhere else. But so there was no institutional framework. There was no mechanism where an individual, where a family could borrow money and pay it over the lifetime. And so that idea appealed to me. It has succeeded exceptionally well in US and in Western countries. Why can't it succeed in India? So that was a challenge. And it was something new. I just got convinced by my uncle, put it that way.
What made you think that this could work in India?
Frankly, I joined an idea which someone else had. I joined an initiative someone else had started or thought about. And we had to really do the mission and the vision statements and all after I joined. All I knew was it's an area which is unserviced in India. And with the growing middle class, with lack of any facility to buy a home, this has to take off and this has to succeed. I had that vague vision, but it was not my vision to start the HDFC. It was a vision already, as I said, by my uncle, who was ICICI chairman. So it was an idea that had to succeed because there's no facility in India for any salaried man. He had to stay somewhere, he had to pay rent from his income. This method is you pay installments every month. And over 15 years, the house belongs to you. And you don't pay rent. So, this was abroad, in fact, Vijay, it's unbelievable that the housing loan portfolio is the largest portfolio of any bank. It is not corporate loans or industrial loans or any other. It is mortgage loans. Mortgage loans, the largest exposure. In India, we've not even scratched the surface. Today, not even 10% of bank assets are mortgage loans. It's very tiny.
Is there a reason for that?
Because we started late. We started late and, we had to set up the systems. The legal recovery systems were not there. A regulator was not there. So it took time. Now every bank has a product. And earlier, for the first 10, 15 years, we were a monopoly. And then it became now every bank competes with us. In fact, if you see the largest exposure, if you ask any large bank in one quarter, what is your largest exposure in, they'll say mortgage finance. So, but we have a long way to go. Housing as a percentage of GDP isn't very small in India. It's 8-9%. And it's 70-80% abroad. So we have a long way, even through our Asian partners. We are nowhere. We've not scratched the surface, as I said.
Coming back to the housing loans, did it pick up right away? There were a lot of challenges you faced when you got into this?
It picked up so fast that I remember there were days when we had to wonder where we will raise money to lend money. Because after the initial capital was utilized, we had to raise debt. And who would give us the money? And we had major problems. In fact, I remember the second year of our operations, we even got our advertising guys in the office to say, prepare some ads to say, we are overwhelmed by your response. Please bear with us. We have large number of pending applications. So we will not be able to process them efficiently. So we are not taking new applications, not because we couldn't.
Yes.
We had no money to lend. So we had to first raise money. And so, it took off very well. And then we started offices and, the rest, of course, is history. But we had all kinds of problems, but we had to go through it.
So when you actually launched this mortgage program and the facility and the service for the client, obviously it was original. Obviously it was first of its kind in the country, and you must have come as a savior to the middle class.
We had our mission, if I may say, was to try and house as many Indians, increase the housing stock in India.
For them to own the home.
For their own homes.
Yes.
So increase the housing stock, increase home ownership numbers. Because in any civil society, individual who has his own home behaves differently than an individual who doesn't have a home. Yes. So mission was to increase the home ownership where people own their own homes. And we always, as I said, we were a monopoly, but we said the first principle we used was customer comes first. We have to serve we are here because of the customer. And we got to be known as customer-friendly company. If you do not have transparency, if you do not have moral values, there's no point being in business.
Are you proud as to where HDFC is?
Well, I would not say proud, I said satisfied, put it that way.
HDFC.
Happy that it's done well. Happy and satisfied.
You've given ownership to millions of people.
Millions.
Which is a unique effort. Deepak, we'll take a short break. Be right back. Welcome back to Louis Philippe in Pursuit of Excellence. I'm in conversation with the financial wizard, Deepak Parekh. Deepak, you're involved with various government bodies now. You are a crisis consultant, if you want to call it that, for the government of India and the banking sector, of course. How do you wear all these different hats and keep yourself so busy, especially supposed after retirement?
I enjoy it. That's why and my weakness is I can't say no. So if someone asks me to be on a committee, I readily agree. And it gives you a broader perspective of different sectors. Like I've been on committees that have talked about the airline policies, committee which has talked about telecommunication, power sector, yes, roads and ports. So I've done capital markets and banking, of course, but even infrastructure related, because I did a lot of infrastructure finance in IDFC. Because again, that was the first specialized infrastructure finance company which started about 13 years ago, where I was chairman for some 12 years after that.
How do you see the country moving forward? More importantly, in the financial sector, where people have the ability to borrow, the ability to build, the ability to own, and the future in the next couple of decades?
See, the credit culture, we have just started the credit culture, according to me. Credit cards, buying autos, buying two-wheelers, buying tractors, yes, on loans. This is going to shoot up. Because you can have the luxury of owning a place, a piece of asset, and paying for it over a period of time. I think credit penetration is still very low. And this is going to grow manifold.
But is there a reason for that?
No, because we all started late. 10 years ago, there were no credit cards. So credit culture is still in its initial years. And if you give a person an opportunity to live well today, with all the gadgets you want in the home, all the transport you need, and pay for it over the course of your life, the country is going to boom. Consumer credit is going to boom. What we need more investments in infrastructure. And say we have done in telecom, what we have done in telecom, we are way behind in urban infrastructure. So the concentration in the next 2 decades, according to me, has to be in urban infrastructure. And, we've done the overall national telecom, we've done golden roads, golden quadrilateral and other roads have been done. We've built new airports, we've built ports. But urban infrastructure and power and urban infrastructure are the 2 areas which I see in the next 10 years, 20 years, there's going to be a huge investment in.
What is a normal day in the life of Deepak Parekh? What do you like to do during the day besides your work?
Now, after I've retired and now that I'm non-executive, I meet people. People want to meet me. Yes. And so I meet anyone. Anyone who sends me a mail or a call that I want to meet, I meet. And so most of the day goes in talking to people. And then, I chair a few companies. Yes. So, those people who are running those companies have a constant dialogue with you. But I have a full day and I want a full day till you're physically able to.
Last couple of questions, Deepak. When you look at the pursuit of excellence and you look at your growth and your entire life story in the financial sector, how would you term excellence? How would you term the journey towards that point in your life?
See, whatever you do, you have to do it with the best of your ability. And you have to have a clear conscience.
Yes.
There is no softer pillow than a clear conscience. So basically, excellence is hire the right people, give them a free hand, empower them, yes, and let them grow their business. And keep an eye on them.
Yes. Finally, where do you see India in the next decade or 2?
Oh, I have great expectations for the country. I expect that we may not get back to the 9% immediately, but I think the poverty levels will come down, the education levels will increase, and I'm certain that every year we are lifting more and more people who live under the poverty line to the above the line, and that process will continue. It's a slow process. But I think that we have a great future. The country has a great future. We have the demand, we have the people. We are an ancient country with a young population, but we need to find jobs for them. Otherwise, there won't be peace. So we need to, we have the potential, but we are always in transition. We're about to take off and never taken off. I've heard that so many times. We're about to take off and we have halted because something has gone wrong. I think it's about time we flew.
Yes, absolutely. Deepak, great talking to you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you in the summer at Wimbledon.
Sure.
Look forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank
you. You can also watch this episode online at louisphilippe.com.